The year 2025, it's rolled around. Many parents are facing the stresses of the high costs of their kids returning to school. And for some, the costs are simply impossible to meet, which leaves children without things like stationery or uniforms. Feedback from more than 200 schools paints a bleak picture for families that are grappling with the ongoing cost of living. Some children arrive wearing ill-fitting or incorrect uniforms, while others share a uniform and shoes even. Shoes with siblings, meaning it's first up, best dressed. I mean, gosh, that's what my mum used to say. As a kid, I never quite knew what she was on about. It's the first one to wake up. They'll go to school for the day. Susan Glasgow is the CEO of Variety. It's a charity that helps children to access these essentials. And she joins me now. Susan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Look, thank you for being here. Yes, it's another school year ahead. And I remember last week, or maybe the week before, I was in the post office, but I was standing behind a mother and her kids, and she was just buying up, all these books and pencils and pens, and I thought, my gosh, that can't be cheap, and the woman behind the counter was like, oh, you're getting in early, or something like that. And I thought, yeah, every year, they've got to have that and more. So you say Variety is inundated. You've been inundated with calls from parents. What is the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges for them?
I think definitely the cost of uniforms is probably the biggest challenge for most parents. I think stationery you can probably navigate throughout the year because you don't necessarily need every single book on day one, but you do need a uniform on day one. So if your child doesn't have what they need, they feel less than their peers, they're embarrassed, but it's the single biggest cost for most parents at the beginning of the school year.
And what are we talking, Susan? I saw when I was looking at this story, some uniforms can cost upwards and up to $1,500. Is that?
Yeah, they can. Especially for secondary school uniforms, if you require a brand new pair of summer shoes, a brand new pair of winter shoes, you require a blazer, a jumper, a new skirt, a couple of blouses, or uniforms. When you add every single item up, that doesn't even include your sports gear. All of those things, combined can cost upwards of $1,000 easily.
Wow, is it? And it's correct. I saw this was feedback from 200 schools, said that some families have to, share their uniforms. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We know of families who are splitting a uniform between perhaps 2 or even 3 siblings. And what that means is that they, it's quite incredible, isn't it? What that means is that, those children who are in a family where a uniform is shared are sometimes having designated days to go to school, because a lot of children are told if you don't have the right uniform, you can't turn up to school. And so, that means that there are higher levels of absenteeism because kids simply don't have the right uniform on day one, so they don't go to school.
And let's talk a bit about Variety, because what does Variety do then? Because it says that you help the children with access to these essentials. How does it work?
Well, Variety is quite unique in New Zealand. We have a child sponsorship model, not different to those that you see in perhaps Africa that, listeners are maybe more used to. But we have a child sponsorship model called Kiwi Kids Sponsorship, which enables New Zealanders, your listeners, to come to us and sponsor a real individual child. So a sponsor is matched to a Kiwi kid, and they provide $50 per month, and we provide those children with the basic essentials that they need simply to be able to get out the door in the morning. So that might be pajamas or underpants or a school uniform, stationery, extracurricular activities. The difference between Kiwi Kids Sponsorship and other programs is that we enable caregivers to choose what their child needs and when they need it. And so we pay providers directly. We don't provide cash, and we simply steward those donations to ensure that kids in our communities have what they need to be able to participate.
So if I was giving $50 a month, obviously that's not going to be enough. Do you?
Over the course of the year,
goes into a pot. kind of thing?
No, we front end a grant. So every individual child receives a grant. We guarantee that 75 cents of every dollar that is donated to us for sponsorship goes to a child. And so we front end a $450 grant on day one of your sponsorship, and you might be paying
Right.
over 12 months, but we make that funding accessible to children on day one so that they can have the things that they need as soon as they're sponsored.
Okay, right. No, I see how that works then. And is that a struggle too, Susan? Because, I know, especially after, COVID, and then we had, with the cost of living crisis, I know a lot of people had to stop sponsorships. And I mean, I had to let go a couple. Is it harder? Has it been harder year on year for Variety?
Undoubtedly, but we are seeing, our sponsors and our donors are being hit as hard as the families that we support are. But I think because of the unique connection that a lot of our sponsors feel for the children that they're sponsoring, and they can talk to them through the portal, and they kind of have a real investment in their lives. And one of our sponsored children talks about their sponsor as being a guardian angel. It's somebody that they know the name of, but they know they're never going to meet, but they have a real connection with that person who stepped up to sponsor them, and no child and no caregiver takes that sponsorship for granted. So, we have a pretty unique model that really works for children and for sponsors alike.
Wow. I mean, that's interesting. So so you're saying the sponsor can contact the child?
We have a moderated portal, so we are very careful about the information we share, of course, for privacy issues. So what a sponsor gets to know about their child is their age, their first name, and the region that they live in New Zealand. And the child gets to know, or their caregiver gets to know, the sponsor's first name and the region that they live in. And we have a moderated portal. So what the sponsor does is communicate with the child. Someone in the Variety office will look at that message and make sure that they're not sharing anything personal, and we pass that on to the caregiver of the child. And the same thing happens in reverse. So you can build a real relationship with the sponsored child over a number of years, or for however long you choose to sponsor. Yeah, it's pretty unique, and it's really special. So I think for a child, knowing that somebody outside of their family cares enough to support them makes a really big impact in terms of their well-being and their sense of mana.
Susan, you mentioned, when kids go to school with mismatching uniforms or they don't fit, obviously they stand out, so they feel like they could be bullied. Who knows? They feel a bit stink about it. And I know many schools have relaxed their uniform rules to accommodate families because of this particular reason. Do you think on a personal level that we should actually do away with uniforms altogether?